Good morning, children.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
ma'am.
ma'am.
We completed different plant divisions like algae, then bryophytes and pteridophytes. In class 9, you had learned about cryptogams and phanerogams. Do you remember? Cryptogame, phanerogame?
Yes,
Not
ma'am.
remembering. Okay. So these three, what we completed, algae or thallophytes, bryophytes and pteridophytes are included under cryptogame. They are spore bearing, or we say they have hidden reproductive organs, and these three come under cryptogame. Now we are moving on to phanerogame, where the reproductive organs are well developed and these are seed bearing plants. There are two groups coming under this. They are two divisions under this: gymnosperms and angiosperms. But angiosperms has been deleted for this year. You need to learn only about gymnosperms. Anybody is remembering what you learned in class 9? The main difference between angiosperms and gymnosperms. Gym, from the word meaning, at least you might remember. Anybody is remembering? Difference between angiosperms. It is with respect to its seeds. Nobody is remembering.
Ma'am, seed is inside and outside.
Slight modification needed. Seeds are enclosed or not enclosed within the ovary. So if the seeds are enclosed within the ovary, you call them as angiosperms. And if the seeds are not enclosed within the ovary, if the seeds are naked, then you call it as gymnosperms. Anyway, we are going to learn more about gymnosperms. Angiosperms is not there this year. It is deleted. So we'll be completing the chapter with the gymnosperms. Okay, you can mark somewhere in the textbook. This year you don't have to learn angiosperms. Gymnosperms. Gymnosperms, gymnos, the word meaning is naked. Sperma means seeds. So they are plants in which the ovules are not enclosed by the ovary wall. They don't have a wall of ovary where these seeds or ovules are present. They have naked seeds. That is because the ovules are not enclosed within the ovary. They don't have an ovary wall to enclose the ovules, and they remain exposed because of the absence of ovary. They remain exposed before and after fertilization. I'll repeat once again. Gymnos, the word meaning is naked. Sperma means seeds, and this division is known as gymnosperms because here in these plants, the ovules are not enclosed with an ovary, or they don't have an ovary wall, and they will remain exposed due to the absence of ovary wall. They will remain exposed. The ovules will remain exposed before and after fertilization. Seeds that develop post fertilization are not covered. Even once the fertilization has been completed, you know that once fertilization gets completed, ovules will change into seeds. So even after the formation of seeds, once fertilization is completed, at that time also they remain uncovered because there is no ovary wall to cover them. But when it comes to angiosperms, they have a proper wall of ovary, or the seeds are enclosed within the ovary. But here that is absent, and that is why it got the name gymnosperms, where word meaning is naked seeds. Seeds or the ovules are not enclosed within the ovary wall before and after fertilization. So once fertilization is completed, ovule will change into seeds, but these seeds are also not enclosed within the ovary. Whether it is in the ovule stage or after fertilization, when it gets transformed to seeds also, the ovary wall is lacking. Now here you can see secure tree or giant redwood tree. This is an example for gymnosperm. You might have heard about the tallest tree, secure or giant redwood tree. And this tree is an example for gymnosperm, or this is also a gymnosperms. So that example you can remember, it can be asked the division to which the tallest tree species belong to. Okay, so you should know that they include, so when I say the tallest tree species is included under this division, it doesn't mean that all the plants included under this division are tall. You can find medium-sized trees or even shrubs can be found along with tall trees. So the plants can be, the plants included under gymnosperms can be tall, medium-sized, tall or medium-sized trees, and even shrubs are included under this category. One important example for gymnosperm is the giant redwood tree or secure tree. It is considered to be the tallest tree species. Okay. Now moving on to the next slide.
Ma'am, can you show the previous slide?
Yes. Just a minute. Secure tree.
The one before this.
You joined late, Adulya?
Yes, ma'am.
Gymnosperms, they are plants where the ovules are not enclosed by the ovary wall. Ovary wall is not enclosing the ovules. And because of that, they will remain exposed. There is no covering for them. So they will remain exposed before and after fertilization. And once fertilization is completed, ovules will change into seeds. But here also, the seeds will not get enclosed by the ovary wall. And then we learned about the types of plants included under this division. It includes medium-sized or tall trees and even shrubs. Secure or giant redwood tree, that is the tallest tree species. It's also an example for gymnosperm. The roots are generally tap roots. What are the two types of roots which you have learned, children, other than tap roots?
Fibrous roots.
Fibrous roots. What is the difference between tap and fibrous roots? Anybody can say? I think from class 7, I think you have learned. Anybody can say the difference between tap roots and
In taproot, one main root will be there and many.
in taproot, there will be a main root. Just a minute. So in taproot, you can find a main root, and this main root will be divided into many branches. So there will be a main root, which you call as taproot. Then there will be so many branches arising from it. And such a root system you call as taproot system. Okay, there will be a main root, and arising from this main root you can find so many branches. So such a root system is known as taproot system. Whereas when it comes to fibrous roots, suppose this is the level of the soil, there is no main root. Instead, you can see a tuft of roots like this, no main branch. You can see a bunch of roots. This is known as fibrous root system. Fibrous root system you commonly can be seen in anybody? All these you had learned earlier. Dicots and monocots, you know the difference, children? Monocots with single cotyledon, dicots are having two cotyledon. So you can find fibrous roots in grasses. Different grasses, maize, rice. In grasses, you can find fibrous roots, whereas in monocots, you can find taproot system. So these are the two types of root system. Hope you have understood. All these are not explained here, but still when I mention the term taproot, you should know what does that mean. Okay, the roots are generally tap roots. In gymnosperms, you can find tap roots. Roots in certain genera have fungal association in the form of mycorrhiza. For example, pine or pinus. And mycorrhiza, you already learned, certain fungi are found living in the roots of trees, and it's an example for symbiotic association where both the partners are benefited. The plant or the tree will produce food by means of photosynthesis and gives a share to fungi or this fungus. And fungus will help the tree to absorb water and nutrients from the soil. So both of them are benefited. It's an example for symbiotic relationship where both partners live together and share their food and shelter. Previous chapter in biological classification, you had learned. Once again, in gymnosperms, mostly you can find tap roots, a main root, and this main root forming several branches. And they also exhibit symbiotic associations like mycorrhiza or mycorrhizae, plural. And mycorrhiza is a symbiotic association between fungus and roots of higher plants. Fungi live inside the roots of higher plants and they help the plants or the trees to absorb water and nutrients from the soil. Instead, they will be provided with the food the tree or the plant produces. Example for a gymnosperm which live in symbiotic association is pinus. And next, you can see another association of gymnosperms, and that is cycas plants. One example for gymnosperm is cycas. In these plants, in the next figure, you can see the specialized roots which they have, and you call them as coralloid roots. It's because it resembles coral, coral reefs, corals. So it resembles somewhat like corals. That is why you call it as coralloid roots. Now, what is the speciality of these coralloid roots? Within the coralloid roots, they lodge nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. You have learned about leguminous plants with root nodules. And within these root nodules, they lodge rhizobium bacteria. In lower classes, you have learned. And these rhizobium bacteria will help in fixing atmospheric nitrogen, which the plants can use. Plants cannot directly use the atmospheric nitrogen. They cannot absorb nitrogen in the gaseous form. It should be converted to nitrates or nitrites or compounds of nitrogen which are soluble. And this is carried out by rhizobium bacteria present in the root nodules of leguminous plants. Similarly, here in gymnosperms, certain plants are having specialized roots, which you call as coralloid roots. And it got the name because of its coral-like appearance. And within these roots, cyanobacteria or blue-green algae are present, which will help in fixing atmospheric nitrogen. Okay. Now moving on. Now more about the vegetative parts of the gymnosperms. Stems can be branched or unbranched. You can't generalize and say it is branched or unbranched. You can say that both types can be found. Sometimes in some plants it can be branched. In some it is unbranched. Cycas plant. You can see the pictures over here. And in cycas plant, it is unbranched. The stem is not branched. Whereas in pine and pinus and cedrus, you can find these are branched. Stem may be branched or unbranched. So in some plants, it will be branched and in some, it will not be. Leaves are simple or compound. You haven't learned about simple and compound leaves. I'll explain it in the next slide. So Leaves are simple or common. I'll give you the explanation for all these. Leaves are simple or compound, and they are well adapted to withstand extreme temperature, humidity, and wind. And the leaves present, they have certain adaptations which will help them to withstand the harsh environmental conditions. Mostly, they will be needle-like. We will learn about it more. So these are well adapted to withstand the extreme temperature, humidity, wind, etc. In cycas tree, the pinnate leaves, that is also a type of compound leaf, and we will learn what are pinnate and palmately compound leaves. Next slide, I'll explain it. In cycas, the pinnate leaves persist for a few years. The leaves can persist for a few years. And in conifers, example, Pinus and Cedrus, the leaves are needle-like. Once the leaves are needle-like, instead of having a broad expanded structure as we have seen in majority of the leaves, it will be having a broad flat surface. So rather than that, here the leaves are in the form of needle. You can see pine needle-like leaves in the figure. So when the leaves shape is modified to needle shape, the advantage is that the surface area will be reduced. This will facilitate reduction in surface area. So when surface area is reduced, the amount of water lost by transpiration will be less. The more the surface area, the more amount of water will be getting transpired. So when the leaves are needle shape, surface area is reduced and thereby water loss also will be reduced. They have thick cuticle. Cuticle is the waxy coating on the surface of the leaf. That is why they are having a shiny appearance. So they have a thick cuticle covering. That also will help in protecting them from definitely from mechanical injuries. Other than that, prevent transpiration. Sunken stomata. Stomata usually they will be present close to the surface, but when these are present, when stomata are present in pits, we call it as sunken stomata. See, usually if in the leaf epidermis, stomata will be present like this. Okay. So this is usually how you find stomata on the lower epidermis. But in sunken stomata, see, they will be placed instead of lying very close to the surface, they'll be present in certain pits. So direct exposure to the atmosphere can be reduced. Hope you're getting it. Sunken stomata means stomata placed in some pits, so some depression will be there rather than lying amidst epidermal cells. They'll be slightly, its position will be slightly lowered, and thereby it will reduce the rate of transpiration because it's not getting directly exposed to atmosphere. Once again, I will repeat the points. The type of leaves we'll see. Stems are unbranched or branched. It can be either branched or unbranched. And coming to the leaves, leaves can be simple or compound. And the leaves are well adapted. They have adaptations. So those adaptations are given in the last point. The leaves are adapted to withstand extreme temperature, humidity, and wind. And in cycas, they have pinnately compound leaves. And the advantage of these pinnately compound, they can persist, they remain as such for a long period of time. And the leaves in conifers or coniferous plants or coniferous trees, example, Pinus and Cedrus, leaves being needle shaped, the surface area will be reduced. Once surface area is reduced, rate of transpiration also will get reduced and they can protect themselves from water loss. Apart from that, they have a few more adaptations like thick cuticle, presence of thick cuticle and sunken stomata. All these will help in reducing water loss. And children, we will come to this slide again once we have completed the next one. See this one. This is not included in this chapter. This you will be learning in the next chapter. But without understanding what is meant by a simple and compound leaf, if I say that this particular plant or gymnosperms have simple or compound leaf, you will not be able to follow. So this slide or the points given here are not included in this chapter. It comes in morphology of flowering plants. Now let's see what is the difference between simple and compound leaf. A leaf is said to be simple when lamina is entire and when incised, the incisions do not touch the midrib. I'll explain it again. Let me take the pen. Okay. See, here you can see a picture of a leaf. And this part where I am outlining, that is a lamina. The expanded part or the flat, broad portion of the leaf is known as lamina. This is an example for a simple leaf. Simple leaf means the lamina is entire, means no cutting, no incisions, there are no cuttings in this particular leaf. When it is entire, when the leaf is entire, or when incisions are present. See, here I will draw another leaf with incisions. You have seen leaves like this also. Okay. So in this leaf, you can find these are the incisions. I will just overdraw with some other. Oh my God, it went. Just a minute. See, these are known as incisions. Some cuts are there here. Some incisions are there, but these incisions do not touch the midrib. This is the midrib. You know, midrib and side veins. This will be the main vein or midrib. And these are having side veins or branches. Okay. So this one, the main vein is known as midrib. And it is not, these incisions are not touching the midrib. See, here is the incision. It's not coming and touching here. Hope you are getting the point, children. Incisions are there, but these incisions are not touching the midrib. For example, here, if there are incisions, and if these incisions are touching the midrib, so here I have marked as it is touching. If it is touching the midrib, it becomes compound leaf. Either the leaf should be entire without any cuts on it, without any patterns like that, without any incisions on it. And even if incisions are there, take the case of a hibiscus leaf, you can see so many incisions like this. Or a rose. A rose comes under a different category. See, hibiscus leaf, if you take, you can see so many incisions like this. But these incisions are limited to the border or boundary. It is not touching. It's not touching the midrib. Such a leaf is said to be simple leaf. You can find here a simple leaf. Now, what is meant by a compound leaf? When incisions reach the midrib and break the leaf into leaflets, small leaves, leaflets, then you call the leaf as compound. Rose leaf is an example for a compound leaf. You see 5 small leaves. You will think, or you might have thought that each one is a separate leaf. Actually, those are leaflets. And the main midrib is what you see in the center with 5 leaflets arranged around it. So here you can see a compound leaf. This is actually the midrib. And all these are leaflets. This together make one single leaf. And here also you can see another one. This is one leaf with 5 leaflets. One leaf with 5 leaflets. Why? Because why are you calling it as a compound leaf? They have only one midrib. Only one midrib, and all these are the incision. They have reached they are touching the midrib. So you call it as a compound leaf. Here also the incisions, all these incisions are touching the midrib or the main vein. So you call it as a compound leaf. Here you can see the midrib, but the incisions, even if incisions are there, if it is limited to the boundary or closer to the midrib, then you can say it is a simple leaf. Are you following? Even tamarind leaf is an example for a compound leaf. Rose leaf, another example. I don't know how far you have understood. Once again, I will repeat. Leaves can be categorized into simple or compound leaf. And when do you call a leaf as a simple one? We call leaf as a simple one when it's lamina. What is lamina? The broad, flat part of the leaf. That is known as lamina. When the lamina is entire, when it is complete without any cuttings, then you call it as simple leaf. Or else, even if some incisions are there, if those cuttings or incisions are not touching the midrib, then also you can call it as a simple leaf. See, here I have marked some incisions. These incisions are just at the border. They are not reaching, they are not touching the midrib. Which is the midrib? This one. Then you can call it as a simple leaf. But when the incisions touch the midrib, so this is same as this one, midrib or main vein, midrib. And here you can see this one is the whole leaf, one single leaf. You can consider it as one single leaf with so many leaflets. How many leaflets you can find? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, no? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12 leaflets are there. Together they make one compound leaf. Why you're calling it as a compound leaf? Because they have a midrib and their incisions are touching the midrib. In the third figure also you can see 5 leaflets. This is not a single leaf, but it's a leaflet. And 5 such leaflets make up that compound leaf. And here also you can find these incisions are touching the midrib. Now, under this, you need to know the difference between two types of compound leaves. So many categories are there, even under compound leaves, but all that you don't have to learn. You will get confused. Just learn two types of compound leaves. Palmately compound and pinnately compound leaf. Now, from this figure itself, it's very clear. What does that mean? Pinnately compound. So many leaflets are present and these are arranged on a common axis. A number of leaflets, several leaflets are arranged on a common axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So like that, so many leaflets are arranged on a common axis. Neem leaf is an example. You can find so many examples, even tamarind leaf, then rose leaf. All these are examples for pinnately compound leaves. Several leaflets arranged on a common axis or on the midrib. Now, what is palmately compound leaf? So it has got the appearance of your palm. Means several leaflets are there, but they all are attached at a common point on the midrib or even at the tip of the petiole. Petiole means the stalk of the leaf is known as petiole. So all that you don't have to worry, that we will learn in the next chapter. See here, the leaflets are arranged on a common axis. Several leaflets are there and they are arranged on a common axis. Here also leaflets are there, but they all are attached to a common point. Then you call it as palmately compound. Easy to remember. It resembles the palm. It resembles your palm. Palmately compound leaf. In palmately compound leaf, all the leaflets will be attached at a common point. It can be at the tip of the leaf stalk. See, this part is known as petiole or leaf stalk, at the tip of the leaf stalk. So that is the difference between palmately compound and pinnately compoundly. I'll repeat the points once again, children. We learned the difference between simple and compound leaf. How are they different? In simple leaf, the lamina will be entire. No incisions. Either there'll be no incisions, but even if incisions are present, they do not touch the midrib. These incisions do not reach up to the midrib. So such leaves are compound leaves. Now what are, such leaves are simple leaves. Now what are compound leaves? Compound leaves means here incisions will be present and these incisions will reach or will touch the midrib. They will reach up to the midrib and they'll be touching the midrib. In that case, you can call it as a compound leaf. Then, compound leaf can be categorized into palmately and pinnately compound leaf. Pinnately compound and palmately common. Both cases, leaflets will be there. How leaflets are formed? By these incisions. Incisions will cut the entire leaf into small leaflets. And in pinnately compound, several leaflets, not leaves, several leaflets will be arranged on a common axis or on the midrib. That is pinnately compound. Now, what is meant by palmately compound leaf? Here, all the leaflets will be attached at a common point. In the pinnately compound leaf, they are attached to the midrib, but they are not joining or attached to a common point. There is no such common point. In different positions, they are arranged on the midrib. Whereas in palmately compound leaf, the different leaflets will come and join at a common point resembling a palm. That is why you call it as palmately compound leaf. Silk cotton is an example. Neem is an example for pinnately compound leaf. Now we will see the previous slide once again. Now you might understand it better. Here the leaves are simple or compound. Gymnosperms. In gymnosperms, leaves can be either simple or it can be compound. And due to the presence of needle-like leaves, which reduce the surface area, thick cuticle and sunken stomata, the water loss by transpiration is reduced. And in this way, they get adapted to extreme climatic conditions. And in cycas, pinnate leaves. Now you might have understood what is meant by pinnate leaves. So here, several leaflets are there, which will come and join at a common point. Not at a common point, sorry children, it is attached, arranged on the midrib. Here, see, this is the midrib. Let me take the pen. See, this is cycas leaf. This is the midrib. Okay, and you can see all these are leaflets. These are the different, just like coconut leaf, that is also an example for a compound leaf. So all these are the leaflets, and you can see individual leaflets. That is what makes it a compound leaf, but they are arranged on the common axis. So you call it as pinnately compound leaf, and this can persist, this can remain as such for several years. So these are the points that we learned about the leaves of gymnosperms. I don't know whether you have understood. I had been explaining all these for a long time. Let me check whether you have followed and then I'll proceed. Have you understood? See, more than half of the class, your videos are not on. I've told you many times whether I'm sharing the screen or not, I can see, I can scroll and find out whose all videos are off. Some are regularly not turning the videos on. Then what I will do is I'll just call up your parents and speak. Don't make me do that. You're grown-up children. I don't want policing. You understand why it is being asked, why teachers are asking you to turn the videos on. Don't make us like what policemen do, always monitoring. That should not be done. Okay, net is unstable, I can understand, but some of them regularly attending with the videos off. So I will be calling them afterwards. Don't feel bad, children, because it's my duty to see that you are attending the class. Okay. Adilya, what happened to your video? From Agna.
Network issues.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Anjana
I'm also having.
message. All are having. Zahan. Zahan.
Yes, ma'am.
The connectivity there is that poor. Every day your video is off. Okay, quickly summarize the points. Alina, what did we learn about gymnosperms?
There are plants in which the ovules are enclosed by ovary wall and
Are
remain
enclosed.
exposed.
Are enclosed. Alina, just repeat.
The plants in which the ovules are not enclosed
Enclosed.
by the ovary wall and remain exposed before and after the fertilization.
Okay. Eva, next point.
They're generally taproots and the stems can be unbranched or branched.
Okay, next point, Elaine.
Ma'am, they include medium-sized trees, tall trees, and shrubs.
Okay, next point, Gaya.
Stems are branched or unbranched.
Hmm.
The leaves are simple or compound.
Okay, then Meryl.
They are well adapted to extreme temperature, humidity, and wind.
What are the different adaptations they show, Emilyn? Different adaptations.
They adapt to the extreme climates like temperature, humidity, and wind.
No, how are they adapted? They are adapted, agreed, but how are they adapted?
They have a needle-like leaves.
Leaves, okay. What is the advantage of having needle-like leaves? Anila,
They reduce their surface area.
So if the surface area of leaves are reduced, how is it beneficial?
It also helps to reduce water loss.
By transpiration. So more surface area is there means more amount of water will get transpired. So if these are needle shaped, less surface area, less transpiration. Then other adaptations, Nimida. What are the other adaptations?
They have cuticle and also sunken stomata.
What type of cuticle? What type of cuticle? Thin layer?
Thin, thick,
Thick cuticle. It's a waxy coating made of a substance known as cutin. That also sunken stomata and this waxy thick cuticle also will protect them from water loss. And then we learned the difference between simple and compound leaves. What do you mean by a simple leaf, Devika?
From simple leaf, that is the lamina is entire, or even if it is incised, it does not touch the midrib.
Okay. Sarah, compound leaf. Yes, Sarah, what is meant by compound leaf? Here the incisions. Here the incisions.
When the midrib tests in species.
Hmm.
When the midrib tests in species.
When the midrib touches. Shabiri.
When the incisions touch the midrib.
You make it complete because in that it was a continuation of the first definition. So you can modify and say.
So when the incisions of the leaf touch the midrib, and either the entire leaf is divided into leaflets attached on the midrib.
Not that. I just want you to say that here the leaf is incised and these incisions reach up to the midrib. What are the two types of compound leaves? Just the names, Valentina.
Pinnately and
Palmately compound leaf. Devi Krishna, what is meant by or what do you understand by pinnately compound leaf?
Many leaflets are arranged in a common axis.
These are arranged on the leaf is or the lamina is separated into leaflets and all these are arranged on a common axis. Alan, palmately compound leaf. Alan.
Leaflets are attached at a common point.
Leaflets are attached at a common point. And it resembles our palm. That is why you call it as palmate leaf, compound leaf. Example, silk cotton. And for pinnate leaf, compound leaf, neem leaf, tamarind leaf, rose leaf. All those are examples. In rose, that 5 leaflets together make a single compound leaf. Tell me fast. Quickly repeat and then we can wind up. What was the question I asked? What is meant by a compound leaf? What is a compound leaf?
And when incisors reach the midrib.
When incisions are present and these incisions reach
The midrib,
midrib. You call it as a
compound leaf.
What are the 2 types of compound leaf?
Fanial and
Pin and palm. Palmately compound leaf and pinnately compound leaf. So thank you children. See you next class.